I know what it's like to carry words in your heart for far too long. You tell yourself you'll speak when the timing is perfect, when life feels less complicated, when you're certain the other person will understand. But the longer you wait, the heavier those words become. One day you realize that silence has become more painful than the truth you were trying to protect. That's why I'm here today. Not because I have every answer. Not because I have life completely figured out. I'm here because I finally understood that some opportunities disappear forever if we keep waiting for the perfect moment. Maybe you've experienced that feeling. Maybe there was someone you wanted to call, someone you wanted to text, someone you wanted to tell how much they meant to you. You opened your phone, stared at their name, and then closed it again. You convinced yourself tomorrow would be better. Tomorrow became next week. Next week became months. Before you knew it, so much time had passed that reaching out felt almost impossible. Isn't it amazing how fear grows stronger the longer we feed it? The truth is, courage isn't the absence of fear. Courage is choosing to move even when your heart is racing. It's deciding that honesty matters more than comfort. It's accepting that rejection may hurt, but regret has a way of staying with you much longer. I've spent years chasing goals, solving problems, and overcoming obstacles that seemed impossible. Those challenges taught me patience, discipline, and resilience. But nothing prepared me for the vulnerability that comes with caring deeply about another human being. When you're building a career or pursuing a dream, success often depends on your effort. You can work harder, learn more, and improve your skills. But relationships don't work that way. Love isn't something you can force with determination. It asks you to trust another person's heart, and that's what makes it so frightening. Have you ever noticed that the people who appear strongest on the outside often carry the deepest fears inside? They smile. They encourage everyone else. They seem confident, but behind closed doors, they wonder if anyone truly sees them. Maybe that's you. Maybe you're the one who always checks on your friends, but secretly wishes someone would ask how you're really doing. Maybe you've become so good at hiding your pain that even the people closest to you believe you're perfectly fine. But let me ask you something. When was the last time someone looked into your eyes and waited patiently for the honest answer, instead of accepting the automatic, "I'm okay"? Sometimes we become experts at surviving while forgetting how to truly live. We protect ourselves from disappointment by refusing to take emotional risks. We build walls so high that pain can't reach us. But eventually we realize something heartbreaking. Those same walls that keep pain out also keep love out. What kind of life is that? A safe life can quickly become a lonely life. I've thought about this more than I can explain. I've wondered why so many beautiful relationships never begin. I don't think it's because people stop believing in love. I think it's because they stop believing they're safe enough to be vulnerable. We've all been disappointed. We've all trusted someone who didn't value that trust. We've all believed promises that were eventually broken. Those experiences leave marks on the heart. They make us cautious. They convince us that distance is safer than connection. But here's the question that changed my perspective. What if protecting yourself is costing you the very thing you've been hoping to find? What if the person you've been waiting for is also waiting for you? Imagine two people standing on opposite sides of the same door. Both of them want to knock. Both of them are hoping the other person feels the same way. But neither one moves because they're afraid of hearing silence. So both walk away believing the feeling wasn't real. How many incredible stories have ended before they ever had the chance to begin because two people chose fear instead of honesty? That thought stays with me. Life moves so quickly. The people we love grow older. Opportunities disappear. Seasons change. Yet we often act as though we'll always have another chance to say the things we've been holding back. The truth is, none of us knows how much time we have. That's why I'm learning to value honesty more than certainty. I would rather express what I truly feel than spend years wondering what might have happened if I had simply spoken from the heart. Because what if is one of the heaviest questions a person can carry. What if I had called? What if I had stayed? What if I had been brave enough? Those questions don't disappear with time. They become quieter, but they never completely leave. And maybe you've been carrying your own version of that question. Maybe there's someone whose name still comes to mind when the world becomes quiet. Maybe there's a conversation you've replayed hundreds of times. Maybe you've imagined saying everything you never had the courage to say. If that's true, I want you to remember something. Your heart isn't weak because it still cares. It simply means you were created to connect. And despite everything this world teaches us about independence, success, and self-sufficiency, none of those achievements can replace genuine human connection. At the end of the day, we don't remember every accomplishment. We remember the people who changed us. We remember the conversations that gave us hope. We remember the moments when someone made us feel understood without needing us to explain every part of ourselves. Those moments become the memories that shape our lives. And that's why I'm choosing honesty today. Not because it's easy. because it's necessary, because I refuse to spend my future wondering whether fear stole something beautiful before it ever had the chance to grow. I don't know what tomorrow looks like. I don't know how every story ends. But I do know this. I'd rather face the truth than spend the rest of my life hiding from it. There comes a point in life when you realize that the greatest battles are not fought in public. They're fought in silence, inside your own heart. They're the battles no one applauds, the ones no one notices. The struggle between reaching out and holding back. Between believing and giving up. Between risking everything and protecting yourself from one more disappointment. For a long time, I believed that protecting my heart was wisdom. I convinced myself that keeping my feelings hidden was maturity. If I never revealed how deeply I cared, then no one could use those feelings against me. It sounded logical. It even felt responsible. But over time, I discovered something that changed everything. A protected heart can slowly become an isolated heart. You begin to mistake distance for peace. You confuse emotional walls with strength. You tell yourself that you're happy alone because admitting you miss companionship feels like weakness. But deep inside, every human being longs for something money can never buy and success can never replace. We long to be known, we long to be understood. We long to find someone who sees us beyond our achievements, beyond our mistakes, beyond the image we show the world. Think about the people you've admired most in your life. Chances are it wasn't because they were perfect. It was because they were genuine. They weren't afraid to be human. They laughed when life was good. They cried when life became overwhelming. They admitted when they were afraid. They loved without pretending they were invincible. Somehow, we've convinced ourselves that vulnerability makes us weak. But what if the opposite is true? What if the strongest people are the ones who are willing to tell the truth even when their voice shakes? I've asked myself that question countless times. Every time I felt tempted to stay silent. Every time fear whispered that honesty would only bring pain. Every time I imagined the worst possible outcome instead of believing something beautiful could happen. Fear has an incredible imagination. It convinces you that rejection is guaranteed before you've even spoken. It tells you that people won't understand you before you've given them the chance. It writes endings to stories that haven't even begun. How many opportunities have disappeared because we believed fear instead of hope? Sometimes we spend years waiting for certainty that never arrives. We tell ourselves we'll make the call when we're more confident. We'll express our feelings when we're absolutely sure. We'll take the chance when the timing feels perfect. But certainty rarely comes first. More often, courage comes first. The people who change their lives aren't the ones who feel fearless. They're the ones who decide that what they want matters more than what they fear. I think that's true in every part of life. The entrepreneur who starts the business isn't certain it will succeed. The artist who shares their work isn't certain people will appreciate it. The person who says, "I love you," isn't certain they'll hear those words in return. Yet they move forward anyway, not because they're guaranteed success, because they're unwilling to let fear make every important decision. I've spent enough time imagining different outcomes to know one thing. No amount of overthinking can replace one honest conversation. You can replay scenarios in your mind for years. You can analyze every word someone ever said. You can search for hidden meanings in every memory. But eventually, there comes a moment when thinking must give way to action. Otherwise, your entire life becomes a collection of possibilities that never became reality. I don't want that. I don't want to look back years from now and realize that the biggest obstacle in my life wasn't another person. It was my own hesitation. Because hesitation has stolen dreams from countless people. It has convinced talented people they're not ready. It has convinced loving people they're not enough. It has convinced ordinary people that extraordinary moments belong to someone else. But they don't. Every meaningful relationship begins with uncertainty. Every unforgettable story begins with someone taking the first step. Every life-changing moment begins with a decision that feels uncomfortable. Maybe that's why the moments we remember most are rarely the easiest ones. We remember the risks. We remember the conversations that changed everything. We remember the moments when we chose honesty instead of comfort. If you've stayed with me this long, maybe it's because some part of your own story feels familiar. Maybe you've loved someone quietly. Maybe you've hidden your feelings behind polite conversations and careful smiles. Maybe you've spent so much time pretending everything is fine that you've almost forgotten what honesty feels like. If that's you, I hope you remember this. Your story isn't over. One unanswered question doesn't define your future. One disappointment doesn't erase your ability to love. One painful chapter doesn't mean the entire book has been written. Life has an incredible way of surprising people who refuse to let fear have the final word. And perhaps that's the greatest lesson I've learned. Love isn't about finding guarantees. It's about finding the courage to be real. Because in the end, people rarely regret loving too deeply. They regret staying silent when their heart was asking them to speak. and I refuse to let silence write the ending of my story. The older I get, the more I realize that life isn't measured by the things we own or the titles we've earned. It's measured by the people who made us feel alive. It's measured by the conversations that changed us, the moments that reminded us who we really are, and the courage we found when every part of us wanted to walk away. For years, I believed success would answer every question I had. I thought if I worked hard enough, achieved enough, and built enough, there would come a day when I'd finally feel complete. But something unexpected happened. Every accomplishment gave me satisfaction. None of them replaced connection. You can stand in a crowded room and still feel completely alone. You can have people who admire your work without having anyone who truly understands your heart. You can receive applause from strangers while quietly wishing that one person would simply look at you and say, "I see the real you." That kind of connection cannot be purchased. It cannot be manufactured. It cannot be forced. It only exists where honesty is welcomed. Maybe that's why honesty feels so dangerous. The moment you tell someone how you truly feel, you surrender control over the outcome. You no longer get to imagine every possibility because reality begins. They may accept you. They may reject you. They may surprise you in ways you never expected. And isn't that what we're really afraid of? Not the conversation itself, the uncertainty that follows it. Our minds are incredibly creative when it comes to imagining disappointment. We picture every painful outcome while forgetting that life has surprised us before. Think about your own life. How many of your greatest blessings arrived in ways you never planned? How many meaningful friendships began by accident? How many opportunities appeared when you least expected them? Life has always been unpredictable. So why do we only expect unpredictable things to end badly? Perhaps hope deserves the same opportunity that fear has enjoyed for so many years. I've spent countless nights wondering whether staying silent was protecting me or quietly imprisoning me. At first, silence felt peaceful. There were no difficult conversations, no emotional risks, no possibility of immediate heartbreak. But over time, I realized something. Silence has consequences too. It slowly steals opportunities. It quietly removes possibilities. It leaves behind unanswered questions that echo through the years. Eventually, you stop asking, "What if they reject me?" You begin asking, "What if they would have said yes?" That question can stay with someone forever. There are people who spend decades wondering about the life they almost lived, the family they almost built, the person they almost chose, the dream they almost pursued, all because fear sounded more convincing than faith. I don't want to live that way anymore. I don't want fear to become the author of my future, because fear has never created anything beautiful. It only protects what already exists. Love creates, hope creates, faith creates, courage creates. Those things build lives worth remembering. And maybe you've been waiting for someone else to take the first step. Maybe you've been hoping they'll call first. Maybe you've been waiting for a sign that it's safe. But what if they're waiting for exactly the same thing? What if two hearts are separated by nothing more than hesitation? That thought has changed the way I see everything, because sometimes the distance between two people isn't measured in miles. It's measured in unspoken words. 3 simple words left unsaid, 1 phone call never made, 1 message never sent, 1 moment of honesty postponed until it quietly disappeared. I don't want that to be my story. I want my story to be filled with moments where I chose courage, even when I wasn't certain of the outcome, because certainty isn't what gives life meaning. Possibility does. Every sunrise begins with possibility. Every new chapter begins with possibility. Every meaningful relationship begins with the possibility that 2 imperfect people might choose each other, despite every reason to stay afraid. That idea gives me hope, not because I believe life is perfect, but because I believe people are capable of extraordinary courage when they finally stop pretending they don't care. Maybe that's why the people who inspire us most aren't fearless. They're simply honest. They admit they're scared. They admit they've been hurt. They admit they've questioned themselves. And then they keep moving forward anyway. That's the kind of strength I admire. Not the strength that never breaks. The strength that keeps loving after disappointment. The strength that keeps believing after heartbreak. The strength that refuses to let yesterday define tomorrow. If you're listening to these words today, maybe life has disappointed you more than once. Maybe you've trusted the wrong people. Maybe you've given your heart to someone who didn't know how to protect it. Maybe you've reached a point where hoping feels exhausting. If that's where you are, I understand. But please don't let one person's inability to love you convince you that love itself isn't real. Don't let temporary pain become a permanent belief. Because somewhere between fear and faith, between silence and honesty, between protecting yourself and opening your heart, there is a life you've never experienced before. And perhaps that life begins with one decision, the decision to stop running from what matters most. The decision to believe that your heart is still worth sharing. The decision to accept that while love can hurt, Living without love carries its own kind of loneliness. I've come to understand that the greatest victories aren't always celebrated by the world. Sometimes the greatest victory is simply becoming the kind of person who no longer hides behind fear, someone who tells the truth, someone who chooses courage, someone who refuses to let regret become the loudest voice in the room. Because when I look back on my life years from now, I don't want to remember how carefully I protected myself. I want to remember how bravely I lived, and I believe that's the kind of story worth telling. If you've listened to my words until this very moment, thank you. That means something inside you refused to scroll away. Maybe it was curiosity, maybe it was hope, or maybe your heart recognized a feeling it has carried for far too long. Before we part, I want to leave you with one final thought. Life will always give you reasons to be afraid. It will remind you of every disappointment, every broken promise, every moment when trusting someone ended in pain. But if you let fear make every decision, one day you'll wake up surrounded by safety and wonder why your heart still feels empty. Don't let silence write the story that courage was meant to tell. If there's someone you love, let them know. If there's forgiveness you've been holding back, offer it. If there's a dream you've buried because you are afraid to fail, give it another chance. And if your heart has been waiting for the right moment to be honest, remember this. The right moment is often the one you're brave enough to create. None of us knows what tomorrow holds. We don't know how many opportunities we'll receive or how many conversations we'll get to have. That's why today matters. This moment matters. The words we choose today may become the memories we carry for the rest of our lives. So, I choose honesty over fear. I choose courage over silence. I choose the possibility of something beautiful over the certainty of regret. And I hope that after hearing these words, you'll make the same choice in your own life. If this message touched your heart, let me know in the comments where you're watching from and share one word that describes how you're feeling right now. I'd love to read your story because behind every screen is a real person with a real heart. And none of us are as alone as we sometimes believe. Take care of yourself. Keep believing in love. Keep believing in second chances. Keep believing that your story isn't over yet. Because the most beautiful chapters of our lives are often the ones we almost gave up on. Thank you for spending these moments with me. Until we meet again, stay strong, stay kind, and never let fear convince you that you're unworthy of the love, peace, and purpose you were created to experience. God bless you, and I'll see you in the next video.